Joe, what was that flash?
Yeah, I caught it on camera.
He's trying to step on it.
So what you're saying is we're in the woods in the middle of the night, no flashlights on,
Right.
looking for an 8-foot hominid that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
that has the strength of 10 people, and now we have to worry about radiation.
Absolutely.
Salt Fork, Ohio, home of Bigfoot, or at least the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, where each year Bigfoot enthusiasts from all around the world converge on this one spot. They come to hear lectures from known researchers, to grab some souvenirs, and we were here to follow up on an interview with Glenn Adkins and his daughter. But while we were here conducting the interview, fate had another twist.
The guy who was just here, Delvin, friend of mine forever, taught me to be a fireman. I've known him longer than I've known my wife. He's had multiple things go on at his campground, camping compound. They have different trailers right beside each other. They've had footprints in the snow. There was a sighting a few years ago. While they were sitting at the fire, the lady in the camper came out and they saw a Bigfoot walk across. And she said she was pissed because she thought they were messing with her.
Yeah.
And they're like, so they called us out. We went out, we looked around. It's an area known to have activity. 2 nights ago, the person that was in that same camper woke up in the middle of the night, looked out the window, and saw a face of a Bigfoot looking in the window at him.
Okay.
So we can do interviews here, we can do interviews there, we can do interviews tomorrow. We can blow that off, but I think it's a crazy thing to blow something like that off.
If we blow that off, we lost our minds.
Right.
We go out there.
I want to go out there and hang out.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm in.
All right,
You good?
we're in. Let's do it.
We're good.
It's funny how these things work out. When you plan to do one thing, sometimes it seems like something points you in another direction. At this point, I'm wondering if that's by design.
We were at the OBC, and we had planned on doing some talking about a past interview you guys had done with me that we lost. And we talked about going out and filming at Hossick's where I had my encounter and stuff. And then yesterday I just texted a friend of mine who lives out here, and he came up and said, hey, just to let you know, the other day one of our neighbors had a Bigfoot look in the window. And pushing a little farther, they've had other activities, track trails. They had one that walked across the yard that only one person saw. And for him to tell me that, I was like, this is craziness. It was like surreal. So you guys came over and I said, hey, we got a little issue. This whole filming and interviewing and talking about what we were going to talk about, that's great. But let me tell you a little story that I just heard. Within the last few days or whatever it was, they had somebody, looked like Bigfoot, look into their window at nighttime. And I know there's been activity there in the past. We're supposed to be out there. Let's get out there and do it. This is like, hey, game on. Let's go. This is now. This is here. This is real.
It's been approximately 3 years. We stopped on our way home from Florida, and it was in the wintertime. We pulled in driveway, come up, and was checking the campers to make sure everything was fine. We went to my camper, and you could see the footprints coming from the pavilion to my camper. And I walked over there because I thought somebody was messing around, and then when we looked at it, it left our camper from the front of our camper and went up over the hillside there. And the footprints were so far apart, I could not step personally from one spot to the next spot.
So you've got the video of one of the guys live up here trying to walk through this walkway, right?
The stepway, yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll get that started.
He's trying to step it off. Then, let me see if I can find it. There's the video.
Yeah, look how far apart they are.
That is huge.
That is massive.
And it's in a straight line.
That's the line thing is, I mean, you can get somebody, they've shown it on other videos, a car can pull me to where I can have a, 4 or 5 foot length thing, but I'm going to be like this trying to keep up. So when you have something that's actually walking in a straight line like that and having the distance,
I'm
dare
not good at
anybody to try
distance.
to do it.
I'm not good at distance. But when he comes from that end of the property and he goes all the way down through here and goes up over that hillside, that's a long ways to run. We was down here last weekend and there was, I don't know, probably 10, 12 people here. It was late. We'd been sitting around the fire and we all went into our campers, went to bed, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. The one girl comes and told us the next morning, she says, I just felt like something was staring at me. And I looked up and out the window, and there this face was against my window. And she says it scared her, but then she looked and it wasn't there.
Let's look at the camper first while we're down here. And we'll see what we're kind of looking at with what could have looked through that window. Yeah. And then we'll go up and we'll scope out the property.
Yeah.
This one right here.
Oh, it's this one.
This window right here is where she was sleeping.
like 6 foot tall. You want him to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just stand by the window.
Yeah, yeah.
Watch the mud.
Oh, look at this.
So 6 feet tall, he's a foot shy to really be able to put his face in the window, or at least 10 inches. You're dealing with something at least in the 7 foot range. It's like over 6.5 foot, 7 foot tall.
I wouldn't.
It's at my mouth. I'm 6'3".
She felt there was something looking at her. It literally felt like it was something was looking at her. They built this injection well right in front of our property. And they had it all lit up and everything like daylight over there. And that's when we noticed everything coming down, seeing different signs. Before that, we didn't see much. We've had different episodes with that with banging on the camper at night. And this all happened usually right after they started drilling the well. They followed these lights up, and this is when everything started coming down.
But if you're going to watch this activity, where are you going to watch it from? This is like a Bigfoot TV.
Glenn had an idea as to why the activity may have started.
And that was about the time they was drilling the well.
And it was a lot brighter back then.
It was a lot brighter and a lot noisier.
This is cable for Bigfoot.
It really is. They can just sit here and watch this whole thing. And there's multiple accounts of them just being fascinated by stuff like this.
And there's so many stories that I get that it looked like he was just watching the Christmas lights. Well, you know what? That's pretty amazing stuff. Well, think about where he's coming from to watch Christmas lights and take a break from hiding for just a minute. Oh crap, somebody saw me. And what happens when they see him? You know, the red lights come on, the guns come out, the dogs start.
This is what you've talked about before.
Right. You know, all of a sudden, you know, we're making a bad impression on them. For all these activities to start up after they started building this.
Now, could Bigfoot actually be interested in this type of activity? Was the plant that much of a curiosity?
When we walked up the hillside the one night, after that, we walked up there and about halfway up that hillside there was a skunky smell there, and it was gone. It was just an instant thing. It was just like, boom, and it was gone. Banging on the campers different times, you know, it was a hit enough that it made the camper move. So, and this has been like 3 different people that's happened to, and it basically in the same area over there. We do know the night that the one lady spotted the shadow going from the camper over there, and she come out and blamed us for messing with her. And we was all sitting at the fire at the same time, except for her. She was cleaning a camper and asked when they hit the camper that night, and then she come out of the camper and says, "Funny guys, you guys trying to scare me." She says, "I seen your shadow going up the hill." We was all sitting there. And then the dog, she had a big dog, it was a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, and this dog took off up through there, and he only went to the tree over here and stopped and looked and turned back and laid down right beside us and would not move. So that was the episodes that we had. And this dog chased anything else usually come around here. When I come down here with the snow, with the foot tracks and stuff, the path right here to the, it's kind of brushed in, but that's where the path went up over the hillside. So, but right in there, just up a little bit farther, as that bank goes up, that's where we smelt the skunk smell. It was here and gone. Okay. But I'm not going with you any farther. All good,
This field goes like way over there.
Oh, you can really hear that sound.
Oh, yeah.
Like all that construction.
Right here where we're at, we're on this bench, and we're above the camping area, and you can hear the machinery just going nonstop. You've got pneumatic gas off, you've got big trucks rolling through. It's really noisy.
They would not be happy to have them as neighbors, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right?
And almost on cue,
We got a radiation spike.
We're standing in an area right now, and we are starting to see a radiation spike that went to 33.
So you've been out with us before when we've experienced some strange phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
And what at this point have you come to kind of expect?
To expect the unexpected. When we were here last year, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Whatever orbs were moving around, I have no explanation for that. None. Yeah,
Are you talking about the thermal incident?
Yes. Oh,
yes,
my goodness.
yes. And we saw birds, and then we saw something else, didn't we?
Yep. And there was some cloud cover, and whatever it was would disappear behind those clouds. So you knew it had to be pretty high up, pretty high altitude, whatever they were. Yeah. I have no explanation for that.
And you got a pretty good idea what's up there, right?
Yeah. I consider myself kind of an amateur astronomer. I've taught astronomy classes, basic astronomy classes, but yeah, I had no idea.
So you'd never seen anything like that?
No, I had no idea anything was even moving up there, because you just see stars, but none of that stuff's moving like that. I mean, Iridian satellite, but they're slow, things like that, but I mean, it was crazy.
We had a 33 CPM maximum. We are currently at 23, but what's kind of weird about it is it just happened out of nowhere. We have been, for the past few years, getting these strange radiation signals in areas where we're out there looking around for subject A, and subject A being your typical Bigfoot type activity.
When you say radiation, you're talking like
Oh yeah.
nuclear bomb radiation?
Yes, I am. I am talking about...
All right, I gotta go.
Safe levels.
Safe levels.
Oh,
don't
yeah,
worry.
it's safe levels.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
all safe levels. It's not
Perfect.
anything, that's gonna
I believe.
cause you any issues. But the problem is, it's there and it should not be there. That's what the problem is.
So what you're saying is we're in the woods in the middle of the night
Yes.
with no flashlights on,
Right.
looking for an 8-foot hominid that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
that has the strength of 10 people, and now we have to worry about radiation.
Absolutely. That is exactly what I've been saying for a very long time now. But we have seen these spikes occurring over and over in these type of situations. I can't tell you why it's happening. No one can seem to tell you why it's happening. Only that it is. So the weird part is we've actually measured this radiation spike in conjunction with direct questions that have been asked. Now, I can't explain that either.
Well, go back to what you said. You can't. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about something is causing these radiation readings to go up almost as an answer or response to questions. When it's noticed, this is what happens.
Dude, I'm sweating the hell off.
And it's weird. I mean, there's no denying it. It's weird. And we don't know why. We just know that we have the data that shows this.
All right, I want to go back to looking for monkey people.
I know, it's a lot easier to look for monkey people. It's a lot easier to look for monkey people. Subject A is much more preferred than subject B, my friend. Yes. So, I don't know. We just have the data that shows something is happening. And here's we're going back to our normal CPMs. You can see it dropping now. It's going back to 13, 14. It was actually averaging 20 over here as we came up this trail, and it spiked to 33. Now we're going back down to normal, 15. So the more you literally talk about this and recognize it, it seems that it does respond at times. That's the weird part. It's crazy. It shouldn't happen. And I just heard something straight ahead of us, by the way. Sorry, Joe, I froze.
Yeah, you're good, man.
Wait, back up.
That's just space.
Yeah, it is, but I thought I saw something in that space.
I don't know how to explain it.
There was radiation spikes at Salt Fork last year when I was, the whole orb thing.
Yeah. And remember what happened to the batteries?
Yep. All kinds of failure was going on.
Yep. And we got to document that, which was just absolutely great.
So we're experiencing some equipment drainage. This was just charged. I just charged this.
Oh, this was fully charged. It's almost at a quarterback.
On a battery.
And we got to document that, which was just absolutely great.
And we were about to document something else.
Well, that's cool. I got it.
What'd you get?
Oh! Here we go.
What are we
And it's gone.
What were we looking at?
Joe, what was that flash?
Yeah, I caught it on camera.
Was that lightning or?
No, that wasn't lightning. That was.
What did you see?
It was.
Yeah, I saw it.
It was ball. It was a ball of light up in the trees.
Where?
I got it on camera.
Are you serious?
It's rolling.
Okay.
It's like that's what I'm saying. It's I've got it.
Let me turn this thing down.
Now, the splash thing sounds familiar.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
You saw it?
What was that flash?
You saw it, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the thermal, it wasn't a flash.
What was it in the thermal?
One of them. So you saw a flash?
I didn't see the flash.
While looking through his camera, Joe had seen a flash, but at the same time, I had seen something completely different on the
Hang
thermal.
on. 1 second. I'll show you. I'll brief you.
Was this really happening
We've been
again?
seeing things with the thermal. I'm turning all hour down.
Okay. Yeah. What I caught was not IR blur.
Where was it at?
Come look. Look at it right under the G.
What?
It's just that one just faded, but there was one up higher in the frame.
Oh.
So I've snagged a couple little blips of light,
I just wanted to.
and they're showing up on IR.
Okay.
They were bright white.
All right, you keep that train right there for a second, okay?
Yep.
Hold it there. Counter there, okay?
Yep.
Got it?
Gotcha.
Just hold it like that.
Yep.
Don't worry. If it starts clicking off really fast, then we'll worry about it. But right now, it's okay. Okay. I'm going to turn up hour on this side, okay?
Now we do have lightning bugs off to our left and
I was
right,
just gonna ask you if that was
Canopy?
lightning.
but no, this was
It'll light your canopy.
a different color visually.
See the lightning bugs up.
All right, I'm lighting the canopy.
Now, the light you see here is infrared light. We're in total darkness.
CPM's up to 23.
Okay, keep watching it. There we go.
Yeah, see those lightning bugs, I can see them and they should be in frame and they're not even lighting it up.
What in the world?
Huh?
I saw a flash just now. It seems like heat lightning to me.
You saw a flash?
Yeah.
All right.
It looks like heat lightning. I saw that one too.
Okay. Let's look in these trees.
And with it still being damp with the rain and could that heat lightning be reflecting lights off of leaves, reflecting off the water droplets or something?
Well, here's the thing, Glenn. I'm lighting this thing up with the hour right now, and I'm
Yeah.
not getting any reflections up there.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I should be.
that's a good question.
That is a great question.
I
my
mean,
friend.
you have reflection with the heat lightning.
Yes.
My wife and I both saw it looked like lightning.
Yeah, well, we're reading spikes of EM radiation here.
And now we started to pick up EM radiation.
On the hillside. There should be nothing on this hillside.
That's right.
Okay, that looks okay. This looks normal. I mean, honestly, that could be from what's going on here.
Yeah, it could be
Like, literally, that could be from going on.
transmitting through the ground with the
Yeah,
pump because it goes
absolutely.
10,000 feet
Really,
down.
It's minor. It's not that much. It's not something I would get all excited about. Let's check out the microwave radiation. Let's see what it looks like.
Now, the microwave radiation was a different story.
Well, that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, that's going off.
That should not be happening at all. Let me move away from it.
108.
Huh.
64.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
The highest I've seen was 108.
Yeah, there's a signal there. There's something here that's doing that.
156.
No, that's insane.
118.
Yeah, I saw that. That's insane.
It's pulsing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Whatever-
it's actually pulsing.
Whatever this is, it's pulsing.
So, let's do what we did at Wineberry. You want to try this?
Go for it.
All right. It's about to get weird, boys. So bear with me here, all right?
Normal just a second ago.
Yeah, I know.
Heat lightning.
You saw something?
Heat lightning.
All right, heat lightning's fine. If there's anything here that wants to speak with us, it's pretty simple. Just approach one of those devices,
111.
especially the one on the ground, and peg that meter all the way up. Don't touch this white one.
You said lightning could generate magnetic field.
It could, yeah, guys. But it's typically not going to be in a pulse.
Do you want us looking into this phenomena? 173. 119.
Is that a yes or no?
I don't know. It peaked. It peaked though. It went to.
Yeah, it did. All right, let's peek it for yes. Okay, well.
All right. This is bizarre.
Yep. This is what's called, okay, so are you rolling on this?
Oh yeah, we're rolling.
All right, so this is basically called instrumental transcommunication. Basically, it's like EVP, but you use other bits of equipment to elicit a form of response. And you see it's gone down the baseline
And
now.
what does this detect?
That thing is
Yeah.
detecting microwave radiation, which is, okay, that is non-ionizing radiation, okay, which is fine. You're holding something that detects ionizing radiation.
Right.
Those two things are not compatible.
Right.
This doesn't generate this, and this doesn't generate
Right.
that.
Right.
And if it does, we're in trouble.
This
So,
is normal microwave like you warm your food with.
Microwave radiation is line of sight radiation, meaning that it travels in a straight line and does not go through mountains or around objects.
Numbers coming back down, right? So let's see him go back up. Can you do that? Take it back up. I want to see it over 100. If you do it,
101.
there it was, 101. All right, so this is the kind of stuff we're getting, Glenn, and I don't know how to explain it. Like I said,
Did it just spike?
We just saw heat light.
Did your meter spike?
no, we're down into 17 and 40.
I made an observation that all the noises behind us is nothing.
Nothing on the hill.
Noises.
That was a pretty good indication that there was something on the hill in front of us.
Microwave radiation has literally dropped to nothing. Literally dropped to nothing when you started looking.
Yeah, I've got 0 heat anomalies.
Yep.
We hung out for a little bit longer, but there was nothing else that showed up. We never got anything on thermal, and our strange radio signals never returned, so we decided to head back.
So, we just got off the ridge.
Yeah.
And it was definitely not what we expected.
Once again, we go looking for subject A, and we find evidence of subject B.
I
Right.
don't want to look for subject B anymore.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really strange, isn't it? You don't expect these things. You don't necessarily even want them. But we had something literally responding to us up there. Not in a verbal form.
Yeah.
Not in a way that was anything that could be audible in any way, shape, or form, other than an alarm going off on a piece of equipment. And it pegged out multiple times.
Yeah, we did see that. You guys saw flashes, which we think was lightning, right? There's some heat lightning. In
There's
here.
some heat
So
lightning.
Let's call that for what it is.
And there's a possibility we need to go back and review the tape. But I'm fairly certain I snagged 2 little blips of light that moved.
Okay,
So it's really similar to what we captured in Wineberry.
so we'll need to look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you guys, you've seen this subject B before. You guys, this is your first time for this.
Yes.
So what's your impression after witnessing it for yourself?
Well, it's bizarre to see any instrument of any kind acting erratically, obviously. So, yeah, it poses more questions than answers, for sure.
It definitely poses more questions than it does answers. Glenn?
And that's why I asked you on the hill, what the hell's going on? Because I'll be the first to admit, I was a dumb fireman. I had no idea what you were talking about, and I still don't. And that's my fault. That's not something that I learned. It's not something that I used. We talked about subject A and subject B. Subject A is something, the 8-foot hominid that's hairy, hangs out at night. Let's go out in the woods, knock on trees, give him a shot at us. I have no idea what you guys are, and I don't mean that disrespectful or in a bad way. I just have no idea what you're talking about. And, I'm not saying it's not real or anything else because I don't know. Yeah. And I want to learn. And, I think that's part of the whole science thing is ask the questions. And, if I can't find the answer, somebody else give me the answers and let's verify those answers. Was that heat lightning? Was that them drilling? Was that we've got to roll out so many things to understand what this needle on this thing was doing.
Right. And that's going to be my job over the next few days to find out if the drilling could be impacting in any way.
Right.
To send off that kind of a microwave signal. You wouldn't think that it would right off the top of your head, but it's possible. It's something that needs to be looked at. Holy crap.
Yeah, I saw it.
We're getting the signal.
Yeah. As you're talking about this, we're literally
Yeah.
sitting here watching Spectrum Analyzer, and we just hit 1.6. This happens. And again, this would be what Subject B is. Subject B is this strange phenomena that seems to be aware of what's going on. It does seem to happen around Subject A. We don't know why that is. I mean, I'm with you. It would be much easier if we were just out there tracking down this thing that we know is an animal. That it's just what it is, right?
Right there, it just pegged out.
And my other thing is, are they even have anything to do with each other?
Yeah, is
No.
there any
Is
correlation?
this something,
We don't see,
Don't
there's no
believe so.
way that we can have that kind of data, guys. We can't say
Right.
that this is linked.
and that's what I'm saying, that, I've gone out too many times and had too many experiences, been screamed at, had wood
Right.
knocks, had the whoops and the howls and all the things. I now you're asking me to watch a needle on a gauge that I don't understand.
Right.
That is really going to, okay, I'm confused on subject A. All right?
Right. As
And
is
now you're
everybody.
asking me to go to another class altogether.
And this is the problem with this whole field, though. The problem is, and you're not the problem, because you just said, I want to learn.
Sure, and I think
Yeah.
that anybody who doesn't is ignorant.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a pun, but anybody who doesn't want to learn doesn't understand that for us to think we're smart as anything else in the world is really arrogant. And I don't think anybody is done learning at any time, no matter who you are. The neuroscientists have stuff to learn. Maybe not about this, but about this.
Well, the biggest hurdle that the community that is going to be moving forward and investigating these events of high strangeness is going to have to do is learn the equipment. Because like you said, you're seeing a needle peg out,
What does that mean?
and you don't know what that means. And to be honest, there's a lot of researchers out there who are in the same camp as you. And it's because we need to learn what these pieces of equipment are used for, what they're detecting, why they're detecting it. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to rule anything out. And we've done some extensive training and research with this equipment. And that's the only reason, honestly, that we recognize these anomalies.
And my biggest thing is I believe in supernatural. I believe in the EVPs. I've seen things and gone with other people to a haunted place to where you've had experiences. But is that one thing? And you say A and B. Are A and B overlapping
Yeah.
and have nothing
That's
to
my
do with each
question.
other? Are we up on that hill? At the top of this hill, I know there's a marker from back in the Civil War where they gave this property to somebody at one time. They had the square marker up there on top. I've seen it. This property was issued to whoever it was that served in the military. So are we looking at EVPs from something totally different that has that? Why we're at the other end of the Bigfoot thing?
Yeah. That's
But
beautiful.
don't tell me that Bigfoot is the paranormal part of it.
Right.
I think maybe we're overlapping different sciences.
I
that
think
is
there's-
what's happening.
Yep.
And we have to consider the possibility, Glenn, that something is kind of mimicking Bigfoot at this point. So
I've heard
that's
that
another
theory.
thing you have to think about. And
Right.
it has to be on the table. That has to go on the table.
Absolutely.
So if that's the case, then yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because there's your flesh and blood, but yet there's this other thing that's like, you know what? I think that's a really good camouflage. I'm going to use that.
And Joe said when we were up there by his tape, we heard what was an owl, or what we thought was an owl. And as soon as he said there's an owl, my first thought was it?
Was it? Right.
Because
right.
the Native Americans, a lot of the names that they use for Bigfoot has to do with mimicking, and they're mimickers of all these sounds and the whistles and the stuff like that. Was it an owl? Probably.
Yeah.
Can you make sure? Nope. And there's
wouldn't
no
repeat
needle.
what
There's no needle going to tell me. No.
It was only one
hoot.
One hoot.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you had said, though, this phenomena is occurring in places where it's overlapping. It doesn't mean that it's related.
Right.
And that's the hardest part.
But it doesn't mean it's not, too.
That's
Right.
true. It's true.
Way to go.
We don't have the data. You're right.
Right.
Exactly.
We
And that's
need more
what we're
data.
trying to do.
Well, look, there was that time we were in Salt Fork, and we had, weird stuff going on in the cemetery.
Right.
We're in a cemetery, guys. Weird things are going to go on, okay? Your needles are going to do all kinds of weird stuff.
But anyway.
in that same cemetery, I've had things thrown at me that wasn't paranormal related. It was, the Bigfoot
physical.
thing. Yeah, I've heard things in that. I found trees that were twisted at the 6 or 7 foot mark that absolutely had, it happened in the cemetery or just at the edge of the cemetery.
Back up just 1 second.
You're saying that you have found trees that are twisted at the 6 or 7 foot mark.
There's a picture on my website about it.
Last week
This is unbelievable.
we were at Wineberry, and we went into an old cemetery that dates back into the 1800s.
This one goes back to have revolutionary graves.
On the edge of this cemetery is a very old tree that had been twisted at a younger stage in its life and grew twisted, and it's at the 6 or 7 foot mark.
This one was twisted. It was fresh, but I was there actually with a paranormal group, and while they were doing their EVP stuff like that, something was on the hill moving. They also had stuff that was paranormal on their recordings. So again, you have an overlap of A and C, and B just happens to be catching both ends of it.
Right.
Yeah, we've actually said that there could be
There could be a C.
category. So we've actually addressed that at this point. So, and it definitely makes you think. And the idea is to literally get people to stop making fun of this stuff, take it seriously, and look at the data for what it is. No one's saying this is absolutely what this is or this is related to this. We're saying they are occurring in the same vicinities.
Right.
We don't know why. So the weird thing is we're reading 36 CPM. The average should be 17. And our tracks are right there.
And it could be any vicinity.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
We don't know what happened here 150 years ago,
There you go.
200 years ago, whatever it is. And you don't know this, but look at the history of Salt Fork. Salt Fork was a rallying point
It was.
for Union members before they went to fight in the
That's
Civil
true.
War.
It was.
Civil War, or in Salt Fork, there's a lot of building foundations of houses that you can go look at that were Civil War, gifts
barracks.
or not
Oh.
barracks, but you could live here now. You went and fought.
Oh.
It was one of those things you got
Land
so
grant.
many.
Right.
Yeah,
Land grant.
the land grant. You fought in the Civil War. You came back. You got your
Here's your
however
plot of
many
acreage.
acres. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
7 acres in a
that
mule.
was what that was. That was a rallying point for the Union people. We're not that far away.
Well, and two, what caught me without any equipment, we walked up the hill,
Right.
Right.
That's
and
right,
that was
yeah.
it. And that was it. That's all it would have been. Like, nothing going on, and we'd left.
And you wouldn't have noticed anything.
Not a
right?
thing.
So
Not a
that's
thing.
that's exactly why we take all this stuff into the
Yeah.
field, and you're going to see reactions that you should not see.
I think it'd be interesting too to come, like Glenn said, come during the day and get some baselines.
I agree.
for
Yeah.
this neighborhood.
Absolutely agree. I think we come back here at some point. We can do that, right?
Absolutely.
I
Delaware-
say we can come back
Delaware
here.
did-
We bring double the equipment.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do the double redundancy thing. We bring
Yeah.
back two,
Two
Geiger
dosimeters.
cameras. Yes.
Two different
Yes.
sets of cameras for everything.
Two
we got.
EMF meters. We catch those on two separate devices.
Right.
We've got something.
That's proof. Yeah.
And again, I'm still a proponent myself of, I was asked during one of the talks, what's your favorite piece of equipment? I said flashlight. I don't care about looking through thermals or this and that, because you know what? People have done that. They hasn't proved anything.
There's some great thermal footage.
Yeah.
But does that change anybody's mind?
I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I want interaction. you're not going to go in the woods and find Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Too many people have tried, and nobody's really been very successful. But give them a shot at you.
Yeah.
And that's what Robert Morgan taught us years ago.
Yeah.
Be there, be open, be sitting there, and let them come down and say hello, which seems like is happening here.
Yeah, that does seem with Subject A. That is
Between the
definitely what's
wells and between their experiences that they've had,
If I-
knocking
Something's
on the
taken an
trailers.
interest.
Yeah.
If I had to classify this is a A 100%.
Oh, yeah,
This
I
is
agree.
A 100%.
I agree.
That was not, but
No.
this is a 100% because
That
you've got a
was-
physical thing over there.
And that was
looking at
100
it.
yards away.
Yeah.
100 yards away, you have Subject B.
Yeah.
So how do
You
you
would say
explain
it.
that? See,
Yeah.
that's where we get into issues,
No.
and that's why people are like, absolutely, it can't be. Well, it is.
That equipment over there makes some really bizarre noises.
Yes,
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
And I could see where that would really draw in the attention because
Oh.
it just made this whining noise. You could tell it was a mechanical whine.
I heard
over there. And it caught my attention because I'm like, man, that would drive me bonkers.
Yeah.
And just imagine what a creature that's lived here its whole life
Right.
that has been secluded up in the woods, and then all of a sudden it has to contend with that noise.
Yeah.
And
Constant-
even when there's no trucks there right now,
Yeah.
there's no loading and offloading right now.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still making that noise. That
That-
would drive
That
me
and what
nuts.
about the frequencies that we can hear?
Right.
What about those levels?
Right.
That
Yeah.
we don't even know if it's occurring or not, but probably is.
Yeah.
There's something running in there, a pump or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is absolutely true.
Well, this was a good trip out.
Oh, this is amazing.
Glenn, I think this has been great.
Oh, it's been a
And
blast.
we can't wait to get back up here and do some more
Definitely.
beating around and see what we can find.
Whenever you want.
Beating
We're
the
here.
bush.
Yeah, yeah.
And that story is now captured, and it is there, and that's what's important about this stuff. So many people don't talk about it,
Right.
so that's great to get that.
That came up so many times at our table today that,
Yeah.
well, there's only so many. I'm like, all the things you need to have a sighting, people, that's documented. Now when they say there's been 20 in Guernsey County, now there's 21.
Exactly, that's a great point.
So,
Gentlemen, job well done.
thanks.
Thank you. So this is where we were when we got some of the weird stuff. When Glenn was pointing out the light and got the
got the
weird
thermal
UAP
tracking
there.
stuff.
Yeah. So it literally went. This is the horizon line, right?
Yeah.
So it literally went all the way across this in about 5 seconds. Very interesting. So yeah, this is also where we got the battery drain.
Yeah.
All that happened right here that night.
We could not have imagined the events that would have unfolded while we were there at the conference. We had originally set out to record Glenn's accounts and document his part in the Bigfoot research history. But instead, we ended up on an actual investigation. So before leaving town, we wanted to once again sit down with Glenn for a very short interview, the one that we originally came here to do.
When we come to Salt Fork, we had heard about it from another person. Hey, they do this, they're at this place all the time. So we came out here, not expecting crazy amounts of interaction, but we got interaction. And it was, let's just say 90, 91 when we started doing this. And Bigfooting wasn't cool. And I was talking to some of the people at the conference the other day, Even the rangers that stopped by our booth and was talking to me. I was like, he's like, oh yeah, you guys got thrown out of the park. I'm like, oh yeah, we get thrown out of the park. Our story was when they would get there, before we got to know a couple of the rangers and were good with them, and they knew we weren't going to do anything bad or harm anything. We told them we were listening and doing a study for National Geographic about owl sounds and night sounds in the woods. Thank God they never asked to see our equipment because we didn't have any. We had an old camcorder that sat on your shoulder, but they were like, oh, okay, cool. See you guys later. We'll leave you alone. We're like, this is the greatest story ever, And but if they found out you were big, oh no, park's closed, got to go, guys, and would throw you out. Now, and we would come to the bar only for scientific purposes. We'd come to the bar to talk to interviewing skills and stuff like that with the bartenders and people that work here. And we're like, hey, have you guys ever seen or heard or had any stories? We're not allowed to talk about that. And that was it. They talked about they were fired. And now you go into Salt Fork's gift shop, over half of it's Bigfoot related. And their new ed center that they're building, I talked to the naturalist yesterday. They're putting a whole section on Bigfoot there. The naturalist that's at Salt Fork, great guy, very, very friendly. I recommend, coming out here for one of his night hikes that he does once a month for Bigfoot. But they have a whole, he did a 4-part series for the Ohio Division of Natural Resources about Bigfoot that they have on their YouTube channel. Unheard of stuff, but it's cool now because of the internet, because of all the shows, because of all those things. And it's honestly, it's making the money.
So I thought it would be good to come back and just discuss what happened at Salt Fork a little more in depth, because there were some things that we noticed on the video while doing the review that needed to be addressed a little bit more.
Yeah, we experienced quite a bit out there, and once we started really delving into it, there was way more than what we actually got a chance to talk about that night.
Absolutely, there was a lot more. We actually had the incident with, we had radiation, we had microwave, signals been picked up again, which made no sense whatsoever.
We had orbs
again. So I thought it would be fun just to sit down and actually go through that and see if we can just everything on the table.
Yeah, let's do it.
So,
yeah,
Salt Fork.
Salt Fork turned into something, man. It was just supposed to be us going and interviewing Glenn to redo some shoots with Glenn.
Right, that didn't go so well a year before.
Yeah.
But, let's talk about this, because there were some things that happened there that just kind of totally changed what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Call it synchronicity, if you want.
Yeah.
Call it, I don't know what you want to call it, but we ended up in the middle of a real investigation.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Against all odds.
Out of nowhere.
It happened.
And it wasn't just a investigation, it was a fresh sighting that took place. And it was a Subject A sighting.
It was very Subject A. Everything was the stuff they had from back in the winter with the footprints.
That's right.
The thing coming up and putting its face in the window.
Yes.
Everything was run-of-the-mill Subject A, normal, boring kind of stuff.
Normal stuff.
Yeah.
With Subject A, we look for more physical evidence, such as hair and footprints, things that are attributed to a natural creature.
But there was one point in this when, when we were over talking to Glenn, and he goes over to the side and he shows us this plant that they have built, right?
Yeah.
Well,
that's when the activity, they said, kind of started up. So let's talk about that for a second. 'Cause Bigfoot TV came up. That's what Glenn called it. Glenn made up a new word. It's called Bigfoot TV.
Bigfoot TV.
And that's all Glenn Adkins right there. But Bigfoot TV, and I'm like, well, this kind of makes sense. So what do we know about Bigfoot and Bigfoot-like, things occurring during these construction-type situations?
Well, we personally have a history of reported sightings going on an uptick when there's kind of industrial activity in a forest region.
Sure, we showed that at Kanawha State.
Right. And we've also got a historical record of, Bigfoot coming into casinos out in Nevada and out in...
Wait now, what?
Yeah. Oh yeah, coming and seeing the big flashy lights and coming in, raiding dumpsters and things like that. These have been images that have been talked about previously on various programs. But yeah, these are casinos out in reservations that have, they're casinos that are ran by tribes.
Okay.
And the casino, they
sure,
flashy bright
lights
all over the place, and then you've got this thing out kind of on the edge of a wilderness area. The lights and sound and everything draws these things in, and then they come in and they usually can find food.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the first Bigfoot actually the result of construction work?
Oh yeah, it was on the logging roads out there, and that's where the whole name was coined.
Because it had a big foot and
big footprints.
Yeah, big footprints. Yeah. So they really do have this habit, like you said, of watching.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. And how can we use that in the future is what I want to know. Like, how can we take that information, that data, because that is valuable data if that's the case. How can we turn that around and use that in our investigations?
Well, I had an encounter just back in October. This was near a wedding, an outdoor wedding. And I was driving home, we'd done the catering, this thing had lights, sound, the whole nine. We could do a cookout of some sort and we've got DJ lights from when we used to be in the band.
This
days.
is true.
We've got all kinds of gear.
This is true, we do have those lights.
Yeah.
If we can power them.
Yeah, we've got to get enough juice to run that stuff.
Well, we do have a real generator, so we may have to take an actual real generator out into the field for some of these experiments in the future. But here's the thing, and you brought it up, the lights do seem to be the cause. So commotion, basically.
Yeah.
Well, that is definitely something we can look into, and I definitely want to experiment with in the future, as far as some form of contact, as Glenn likes to call it this,
right?
Or
if you
inviting in, right?
If you remember correctly, too, we were at the powwow last year, and we had the one lady came up and she gave a report.
That's right.
And they had some Bigfoot-like activity.
There was UFOs
the night before.
Yeah.
And on the second night of this forest party they were having, they had a ball of light come through the trees.
That's right, it was a rave. They had a rave.
It was a rave in the forest.
Yeah.
Came in through the trees, it hovered over the fire and flew around for a little bit in the middle of all the lights and then took off like a rocket.
So to me, this is interesting. Again, that just mixed both subjects again, unfortunately.
It does, but it gives us at least the opportunity to measure something.
It really does. Yeah, it really does. It gives us an idea of what to look at, because we see a lot of these shows, right? We even do it. We'll be quiet. We go into the field and we sit down and we just listen and we're very quiet.
Yeah.
Well, typically we get nothing.
Right. That's right.
I mean, we might see a little light on the hillside or something, but as far as Bigfoot goes, typically we don't get much when we do that.
The best action that we've had,
we're doing
Bigfoot
something
related. We've had a cookout during the workshops.
We were filming.
We're out there doing more than just run-of-the-mill walk through the woods.
Exactly. So he's right. Sparking interest, I think, is what Glenn likes to call it. And I think that's what we're doing. I think we're sparking an interest. We're making them look at this and say, something different's going on here, and I want to see what it is.
Yeah.
So Bigfoot TV.
It's worth a go, man.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great idea. Okay, so here's the other thing we have to talk about. The orbs. The orbs.
The interesting thing to me is that we have now 2 cases of IR that was invisible to the naked eye.
Yeah, I think that's important to remember. Some of these things we're not seeing with naked eye, right? And I can tell you, I've seen these with other researchers as well. I've been in the field and seen these same things. There's something there. If you look back, and we will, let's look at the clip where you actually first saw it, because you got very excited.
Yeah.
When you took the shot, and I didn't know what was going on because I was filming something else at the time. But at the same time, everybody else was like, they saw a flash.
Yeah.
Well, you saw more than a flash.
Well, there was heat lightning.
Right.
We were getting that flash with the heat lightning, but when I was moving around, I was just looking through the viewfinder to see what we could get and see if there was anything going on. Just really honestly, at that point, we had camera A rolling on you on the hillside, and I was just trying to grab some nighttime B-roll. I wasn't even trying to grab this stuff.
This happens a lot.
It goes back to Logan.
Yeah, this happens a lot.
When I took the thermal, I was just getting some B-roll thermal footage, and then I said, why not? Let's look up.
Yeah.
And I looked up, and we caught the UAPs, UFOs, whatever
Whatever you want to call them.
And so with this case, I was just kind of getting some overhead shots of everybody that was standing there, because that's all that was within the IR scope for us with the light that's on that camera. But just over top of Mike's head, I saw some kind of glimmer in the viewfinder. So I took my head to the side and I looked, couldn't see anything, but it was still there on the viewfinder. I looked back and it was still there. So then I was like, wait a minute. So I panned off into the trees and I was looking. There weren't any blue ghosts flashing, which is it's a nickname for early season lightning bugs. They're bluish in color. No blue ghosts to be seen over that way. And I was looking kind of higher up in the tree line at this point, because where we were at, we were walking up a pretty steep incline, and everything I was shooting that was horizontal was over everyone's head anyway, because where I was standing, I was up a little bit higher, and I started seeing those little things moving around. So I zoned in on them and watched it, and I was like, please, I hope I'm getting this. I hope I'm getting this. And then all of a sudden, here goes a streak. And I was like, I knew I was getting it at that point, because I saw it on the viewfinder, and yeah, so there they were. We got about a minute and a half.
You got something.
Of something.
You got something. I don't know what it is. I've looked at it multiple times now. I thought at first it's something. There's something on the hillside, out there that's lit up. There's nothing on the hillside, because later on you see. I actually tested that in the field. I turned on the IRs. We did everything we could, and we lit the hillside up, and there's nothing out there. There's no kind of IR reflection going on. I don't know what that was. I have heard, especially on the video, I know Mike talks about heat lightning. Him and Glenn both, they're talking about heat lightning, because we did have instrument issues as well. We did. Heat lightning did not cause that ball of light. Let's put that first. No. And this wasn't ball lightning. I know there's people who's going to go that route, but
this was a ball of light, not ball lightning.
No, it was not. It was not ball lightning. Now, the one that streaks, to me, is very interesting. That could be a bolide.
It could be.
That could be a bolide. And I say that because there was a flash around the same time that this was seen. I don't know. I'm just saying that could be a bolide. That makes more sense than...
Right, trying to explain it away, that's the easiest thing we can attach it to.
Yeah, that is the easiest thing, and I've seen bolides, and that looks a lot like one.
Yeah.
More importantly, when that happened, I do believe we might have been entering a meteor shower, or close to a meteor shower.
We were getting close to, We were about a week off.
So it could have been, So let's put that for what that may have been. Doesn't mean that's what it is, it just means that's what that could have been. Here's the thing, meteor bolide aside, I don't know what that was.
And we don't know what the other flashes were.
I don't know what the flashes were. I knew some were heat lightning, but I don't know what that ball of light is, more importantly.
Well, I'm not talking about when I say flashes, I'm not talking about the flashes in the sky. Those are easily right off. It's heat lightning. I'm talking about the
little
other
balls
specks.
of light, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what those are.
The other orbs.
Don't know what that was. I have no idea what that was. All I know is we've seen them now multiple times, and at this point it's almost become just so common that it's getting to the point where I really don't get that excited about it anymore.
Yeah, it's strange, because this used to be a phenomena that was
pretty rare, right?
Elusive. People couldn't catch it on camera,
and then all of a sudden it started.
And now you got all kinds of people catching it.
So we have to ask a very important question. We talked about this on the podcast once. Possible escalation in events.
Yeah.
Is that what's happening? Are we seeing more of these things, or are people just taking notice because now they're employing, like we are, all this technology that's allowing us to look into that invisible field
Right.
that we can't see into, right?
It's possible.
So there's two things there.
The peak of interest and the correlation with use of technology in the field, it very well could be it.
Yeah. So I'm not really
Because
sure.
let's face it, 10 years ago, the majority of the gear that we're carrying now was tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, they're still fascinating to me, but it's more fascinating to me that we went so long without being able to see them.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there they are.
Yeah.
And now they're just like, here we are in every place we go almost.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious to see how this goes. But, and Tony brings up some very interesting hypothesis on those orbs.
What'd he say?
Do you really want to know?
I mean,
Okay.
might as well.
Well, as far as the whippoorwill incident that you had, so let's talk about that for a second. Because I know that shook you pretty good.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's kind of weird. But when I told Tony, his jaws dropped almost, literally. And he said, do you know the legend of this? And he tells me this legend. I'm like, no, I've never heard that. And apparently, the whippoorwill is seen by some tribes as a shapeshifter. Little people.
Little people, of course.
So now we see this escalation that's starting to take place. Again, this is how this thing works. This is how this phenomenon seems to work. When you think you figured out something, it changes the channel.
Yeah.
That is a data set that we cannot
And
deny
that-
at this point.
And that is, for intents and purposes, mischievous in nature,
Agreed.
trickster-like behavior.
Agreed.
Again, went out to talk about this possible Bigfoot sighting, found a trail possibly
Yeah.
that went over the hill.
Found possible
Possible
footprints.
footprint.
We found them.
Comms went crazy, decided to get out because it was getting dark. We weren't really,
Yeah.
again, not really going out there to do
This was
proper
just to do
investigation.
this was just to do a recreation while we had daylight.
And then we get sidetracked. This is what happens. And this is
Yeah.
the strangest thing about this whole phenomenon.
And that goes along with every tribe's relationship.
Oh, tribes,
With
cultural
little people.
cultural beliefs. Let's look at, leprechaun. Let's look at
Leprechauns,
fairies. Let's
fae.
look at,
Yeah.
all that. Trolls. This is throughout history.
Yeah.
Are we seeing, the masks, so to speak? Is that what we're looking at?
It's possible. We can't say outright no,
Right.
because we're too deep into it at this point. We have this stuff happening. We're in a place where we're simply going to have to collect more data.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the table, and everything's going to have to go on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. So we need more data on that before we
Because
can.
I'm not ready to
Yeah.
say it's the Fae.
Right.
Now, I'm not.
No,
I'm
it's a
not there
word.
yet. It is. It's a word, and it's lexicon.
That's our
It's-
issue.
It is.
That's our biggest issue.
It is.
And that's what drives people away. They hear words like fae. They hear words like will-o-wisp, and they're like, oh, those are legends.
Yeah.
Well, those are just observations with words that someone put on them.
To put it into perspective, I'm kind of in the same position with this and what we're experiencing right now
Yeah.
as I was when we were pouring plaster and the Geiger's counter started going off.
Oh, yeah.
That same kind of
That
uncomfortable
shock.
unease and just kind of like, are you serious?
Yeah.
This can't be.
What it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that same kind of wall I'm up against now with looking at this. Now it's easier for me to say a trickster,
Because we don't know what that is.
because we don't know what that is. But putting labels towards it, I can't. I'm not comfortable doing that simply because we don't have enough
We
data
don't know.
to do it.
We don't know what this is. I mean, we can call it whatever we want, but we really honestly, at the end of the day, have to say 100% we don't know what this is. We only know that it is.
Right.
I know people get sick of hearing me say that, but
It's true.
It's true.
We're not going to come out here and write some book like an expert pretending that we know what this thing is.
I don't know what this is.
We can't. We can't come up and set on a camera and say that this is definitively what this is either. We simply don't have enough data. We have to compile more And then we can start looking at it in maybe a sense of labeling it. But right now, it's just it's bizarre.
It really is.
What do you think about this? Because this is now another location
That we seen it?
where we're seeing overlap.
Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing these overlaps in paranormal activity right alongside of these seemingly physical things.
There are no coincidences.
In these window areas that they were actually becoming real.